Hello and welcome back to Dickinson Dulcimer's instruction videos for hammered dulcimer. This is video number 6 in our series of 40 instruction videos for beginner and advanced beginner hammered dulcimer players. Today we're going to learn about keys, playing in keys, and chord progressions. Now this video today is going to have a lot of explanation about things that are often confusing to those of us who have never had formal music lessons. So please be patient with me and stick with it. Once you learn the basic structure of chord progressions, everything will start to make sense as you learn to play tunes. Now, if you've had music lessons or you already know all the chord progressions and all the keys, you can skip on to the next video. Okay, let's get started. Every song is played using a chord progression. The chord progression tells you what chords you're going to be using in a particular song. It does you no good to know how to play a lot of different chords if you don't know which ones to play when you play a particular song. Now fortunately, most songs follow a simple common chord progression that includes only 3 chords. It's called a 1-4-5 chord progression, and it's important that you know and understand why it's called a 1-4-5 chord progression. Here's why. Take a look at this chart. To find the chords in a particular key, we use the notes in the scale of that key. For instance, if we want to find the 1-4-5 chord progression in the key of C, we begin by looking at a C scale. The 1 chord is always the key we want to use. So the 1 chord in the key of C will be C. All we have to do now is find the 4 and the 5 chords. And if we number the notes in a C scale from 1 to 8, as they are on this chart, you can see that C is number 1, F is number 4, and G is number 5. And those 3 notes from the C scale, C, F, and G, turn out to be the names of the 3 chords that make up the 1-4-5 chord progression in the key of C. And it is because they're the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes in that scale. And a high percentage of songs played in the key of C will use those 3 those 3 chords, C, F, and G. Now on a 15-14 hammered dulcimer, you can play in almost every major key. But in this series of instruction videos, we're going to be playing in 3 keys only: the key of D, the key of G, and the key of C. Almost all of the songs that beginner and advanced beginner hammered dulcimer players play as they're learning to play the dulcimer are played in those 3 keys. If you have a 15-14 dulcimer, you can also play in the keys of A and E without too much trouble. But for purposes of these videos, we're going to stick with the keys of C, D, and G. I'm now going to show you a way to quickly find the 1-4-5 chords in those 3 keys. Now we've learned that the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of C are C, F, and G. Let's find the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of D. Take a look at the palm of your left hand and begin by calling your thumb the D, which is the 1 chord in the key of D. And then count, going from your thumb to the right, count each finger. D, E, F sharp, G is the 4th, and A is the 5th. Now G is your ring finger and A is your little finger. Now I know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to know that that F sharp is an F sharp instead of just an F? It wasn't when we counted it on the C scale. Well, if you've never had music lessons, you wouldn't know why that is, and why it's sometimes an F sharp, sometimes an F. But there's good news. There are no sharp or flat chords in the keys of C, D, or G. So when you count to find the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the keys that we're going to be using, you won't land on any sharp or flat chords. So you don't have to worry about whether it's an F sharp or an F, the note on that scale, for purposes of counting and finding the chords in the keys. On this D scale, you can say D, E, F, G, A, or you can say D, E, F sharp, G, A. Either way, you're going to have D for the 1 chord, G for the 4 chord, and A for the 5 chord. Knowing that it's an F sharp might be important later on, but for purposes of these videos and finding the chords, it's not important. So let's use the chart that I prepared to find the chords in the key of G. Before we do that, let me remind you that you can download this chart or any other chart or graph that you see on these videos by going to dickinsondulcimer.com and clicking the instruction tab and then clicking downloads. It's free and you're welcome to them. They're there for you. Now I'd like to show you how these chords fit together and sound so that you can practice the three keys that we've learned. In order to learn or in order to play the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the two keys that I'm going to have you practice before our next video, I want you to think back on the boxes that we have learned. And this chart, take a look at this chart and it'll help you remember the boxes, and you'll recall that we talked about doing good comes first. If we have a 15-14 dulcimer, we have these two bottom boxes. If you have a 12-11 you don't, but you can imagine that there's one below your G box. This is the bottom box on your 12-11. This is the bottom box on a 15-14. And you can imagine it's there, but doing good comes first. This is a D box, G box, C, and F. And then again, for the A box, A, again, doing good comes first. Now, since you know which boxes you have and you've learned one way to play a major chord, you'll recall, and I'll use this G box, the bottom right box, on a 12-11 dulcimer. You recall we used a left hammer, beginning with left hammer, simple major chord pattern by playing a G this way. I'm going to show you now a different way to play a major chord, and this way we're going to begin with right hammer. We're going to begin on the same note, which is the G, and we're going to use the same three notes. We're going to use the G, the B, and the D. But we're going to put our left hammer on the D, and it's never going to move from the D. We're going to begin with right hammer on the G, and it's going to move from the G to the B, back to the G, back to the B, from G to B, back and forth, always using left hammer on this D, and it'll sound like this. Practice that till you feel very comfortable. You might want to try to practice it a little faster. Begin slowly. Now, using that chord pattern and using the chart that you have that shows you where the G, C, and F boxes are, if you play in those boxes and use that pattern, you'll be playing a G, C, and F major chord. And the same thing on the mountain. This is the D box, and you'll play a D major chord and move up to the G box, a G major chord, and move up to the C, and it's a C major chord. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to play the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of G and in the key of C, just those two keys, to practice before our next video. So in the key of G you'll have a G and a C and a D chord, and what I'd like you to do is begin with the G, play it twice, then move up to the C, the 4 chord, move back to the G, then move over to the D. Remember that's the D box, then move back to the G, up to the C, back to the G, and then over to the 5 chord, which is the D, and then the G. Alright, we're going to do the same thing in the key of C. The C, here's the C box, the 4 chord is the F, and here's the F box, and the G box is here on the mountain, and so we're going to have the C, F, and G, 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. So we're going to play the same pattern. There's the C 1 chord, F, back to the C, the 1 chord, then over to the 5 chord, which is the G, then back to the C. I'd like you to practice those two keys, the key of G and the key of C, playing the 1, 4, and 5 chords until you're very comfortable, and build up your muscle memory so that you're really not thinking about individual strokes, you're just thinking about the pattern. And play them every day, practice, and you're going to learn that there is a little more complicated way to play the chords. It'll sound very, very nice as you accompany other instruments and singers. But this practice and these lessons where you learn the chord progressions are very important. So please be patient and work on this, and I promise you it'll really pay off as we move into playing songs and tunes and things that you have looked forward to playing on your hammered dulcimer. Again, I want to remind you that these video lessons are free, and we ask only two things of you. First, leave a YouTube comment to help others know whether these videos were helpful to you. And second, please visit us at dickinsondulcimer.com and join our free email list. If you'll do that, we'll keep you updated when we post new videos. And while you're there, please take a look at our instruction manual that's displayed on the home page. It is a companion manual to these free video lessons, and if you like what you see, you can purchase one right there on the website. Until next time, this is Jess Dickinson. Keep practicing, and we'll see you on the next video.